Let's talk about assignments. What's an assignment of contract? In a nutshell, a buyer is assigning their purchase agreement to another buyer before the closing. So buyer and seller accepted offer, buyer assigns, transfers their rights and obligations to somebody else before the completion date or the closing date. That's it in a nutshell. And there's a lot of finer details and talking points. I'll save for another video. If you're interested, just reach out. So why would somebody want to do this? Maybe you as the buyer wrote the purchase agreement in your name, but you want to register the property in the name of a corporation, or perhaps you're buying it with somebody else, a family member who wasn't available to sign the purchase agreement at the time of you presented the offer. So you just want to add them to the contract, or for profit, okay? We do see this in resale from time to time, more so to add people to the contract or register in the name of a corporation. But where we see it the most is in new construction, strata title developments, which makes sense because you walk into a sales center and you put your deposit down, you want to buy a unit, and that development doesn't complete for another 1.5 to 3+ years. So a lot can change during that time. So the property might just not work for you anymore. In either case, you need the seller's consent. Developer is the seller. Okay, you need the seller's consent, right? So if it's resale and you know you're going to need to add somebody to the contract, hopefully you know that ahead of time, or if you do have a corporation that you might want to register the property in, deal with that ahead of time, okay? Like deal with that when you're presenting the offer and explain to the seller what you're doing and why you want to reserve that right to assign, okay? As for development, yeah, it's hard to know where you're going to be in the next few years. I mean, for sure, most people, this is where they're buying where they live and that sort of thing. But if there's something in your mind that where some things could be a little bit up in the air, but you want to jump on this opportunity and secure a unit there, just note the developer's assignment term, okay? Because developers are going to have an assignment fee anywhere from 1% to 5%. I've seen it way over that in one case. Developer really didn't want anybody to assign, so it was a huge fee. So note that fee because it could be something that you want to talk about while you're making the offer or signing the offer. Like basically negotiate it down if that's important to you or not. Whether you're successful in that is a whole other story. And how you can advertise the property as well. So, some assignments are allowed to be on the MLS and others are not. And for the most part, I think that really just depends on where the development is at. Like, let's put it this way. If the developer has units left to sell, they don't want to compete with you, okay? So they might give you consent, but say you can't put it on the MLS and you can't advertise it on social media and all that sort of stuff. So just be aware of it, okay? And also worth noting is if you assign your contract to somebody else and they don't close on the property, sellers are going to come looking for you, okay? So just by assigning your rights and obligations to somebody else doesn't alleviate you from the deal entirely, okay? So just note that. And financing. So right now, some people are probably in a bit of a tough spot, depending on when they wrote their purchase contract. Interest rates were different likely when they wrote, and property values were different likely when they originally wrote. So appraisals might not be coming back where they need to be, and people might not be qualifying for the amount they agreed to pay. Okay, so just know when you're going into a pre-sale, yeah, you're going to be speaking with your mortgage broker and you're going to be, approved in and around that amount. But there are programs out there. I know RBC has one where they'll approve you for financing for 2 years down the road. Interest rate will be a little bit higher, but they'll approve you as long as anything in your application, like if your job doesn't change or anything like that. So that'll give you at least some security. Okay, so if anybody says to you, like, yeah, you're good for this amount, but you don't really need to qualify for the mortgage until time of closing, like there's some truth to that, but just do a little bit more homework and find out what you can secure now as opposed to waiting to time of closing, okay? Because some people, again, right now are probably in a little bit of a tough spot, unfortunately, right? So hopefully they get through it. Any questions on any of this, just reach out. Assignments, yeah, like I said, we mostly see them for new developments. So right now, yeah, there could be like the opportunity there. If a development's sold out, something that you might have missed out on that you saw being advertised a couple years ago that you're like, oh, geez, I wish I would have loved to have one there, have one of those. You might see some assignments. Okay, now if you're having trouble finding the assignments because not all not all of them are on MLS. You're going to need to chat with a realtor. Not because we hoard this information, but we're part of different groups and our ears are open. So we see assignments a little bit more frequently than I think the general public. Okay, so any questions, reach out.